Here we go. Sorry I missed last week, guys. I was sick. For those of you that know me well, you know I don't do doctors and stuff like that. Um, I haven't been to the doctor in probably 20 years, but I was sick enough to actually make a doctor's appointment. I was concerned with some things that were going on. Um, I just wasn't well. I took a day off from work, which is something I haven't done. I couldn't tell you in how long, so I went to the doctor and they ran some tests and things like that, and then we waited. They did the normal. Um, you know, Blood pressure was normal. They did an EKG, and they were concerned that my heart rate at rest was 54 beats per minute. I simply told them because I'm a machine, I'm not a man, but they were concerned about that, and they were concerned about some other things, did some lab work. So then we waited. And I'm sure, like many of you, one of the hardest things to do is wait on an answer, especially um, from a medical professional, and especially when situations or the symptoms um, don't change, when things maybe get worse a little bit. You go to the doctor, you're hoping for a resolution, you're hoping for an answer that's immediate, and they got to do these tests and they got to wait, or you got to wait, and you got to wait, and you got to wait. And they say, well, try this and let's see if it changes. And in the meantime, while you're trying to do what they say, things don't change. And it seems like it just piles up more and more and more and more. And your concern continues to grow. Your anxiety continues to grow because you're worried about worst case scenario, especially when it comes to medical things. I'm sure as many of you have had to deal with things of that nature. That waiting is a nightmare. That um, contemplating the ifs is not very fun because for the most part we don't tend to um, venture towards the positive ifs, like, oh well, it's just a flu or the bug, or maybe I have COVID, or whatever it is. We tend to go a little bit towards the negative and kind of stay there. So um, one of the hardest lessons I think that we have to learn when we're waiting on things is to not be anxious. I tell you, one of the most anxious times that I've had in my life um, was waiting on an answer from the parole board. I remember the first time that I came up, and the on the internet, your family can look up and see when you're eligible, when you're in the parole review process and things like that. So they knew well in advance before I did, when I was up and when I was under review, and when they were voting and things like that. And just the waiting, the anxiousness of the possibility of getting released. Um, it's what you think about all day. It's all you think about, getting out of there every single day. I want to go home. Obviously I know that I put myself there, but that doesn't mean that I didn't want to come home. So I remember the first time we got an answer back pretty quick. It was in about 3 weeks, and I got denied parole. So I knew and with that denial, they told me I would come up for a review again in another year. So I knew that I was going to spend at least another year in prison, and I was okay with that. I didn't expect to make my first parole. I hoped, obviously, but I didn't expect it, and I try to remain positive and do the things necessary, not to get out. That's not the goal. That wasn't my goal. My goal was to improve who I was as a person, improve my walk with Christ. So to continue to do those things with the time that He had given me. And again, when I came up the second time, the anxiousness was a little bit less. More trusting in God. God's gonna let me go home and things of that nature. That's just what you do. And I got a quick answer on that one too, and that was another no. And as the frustration continued to build, it wasn't just for me. My family was it hurt them too, and things like that. So it was a difficult season without question. But it strengthened my walk and allowed me more time to study and to learn and to be more obedient and to be more diligent in seeking after Him, which is something that, in the midst of being told no, I was told yes to so many other more things that were more important than me being able to, come home and eat Taco Bueno or whatever. The third time that I came up, the anxiousness was a lot less than the first time. We sat on the old adage of third time's a charm, and this is it. And I was at a private facility, and this is where they send you before you go home, and this and that, and another no. So, by this time we were about 5 years into this thing. By the time I come up for my first parole, I was well into my sentence. So, we were kind of used to the no's. Another year goes by with the same thing, conditioning my mind and my body and my soul and spirit in obedience to the Lord. But something changed the fourth time that I came up for parole. I had no anxiousness at all, zero. I know that it's difficult to understand that or maybe believe that, but I got to the point where I understood. The Bible tells us in Philippians to be anxious for nothing. Let me pull it up and quote it. That way it's not me, but the word. Philippians 4, verse 6. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, that your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. And that's what I did. Look, God knew that I wanted to go home. He knew that I did not want to be incarcerated. He knew that I wanted to be able to go home, take care of my family, and be with them and things like that. So I just said it. Just look, once we knew I was eligible and I was under the parole review process, I just said, it's in God's hands. And I meant it. I'd said it before, but I didn't really mean it, to be honest with you, because, we were still trying to do what we could. We sent in parole packets and all these support letters and all this other stuff. But the fourth time we just said, God's got it under control. And if it's His will, He's going to do it. And we're going to be thankful either way. And this was the longest time for them to review my parole status. It took 7 weeks this time. And this was the longest time that they had decided to vote when they were trying to figure out what they were going to do. And to be honest, there was no anxiousness. We just kind of, went with it, and there was no updates, and we weren't nervous or anxious. We didn't really talk about it. We just kept going and kept going, and just one day, nonchalantly, I get on the phone and Cheryl tells me, oh, hey, by the way, we got an answer. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, you're coming home. Cool, calm, collected. She was a lot more put together than I was at that point. But again, we trusted and we knew that God's plan was going to prevail and that His timing was perfect. But I think what really got us through this whole time so many people rely on those verses, be anxious for nothing, because they know them, and they can repeat them, and it's easy to stand on those. But the next verse is, for me, starting in verse 8, it says, "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." And so many times we just meditate and focus on the wrong thing. We focus on the negative. We focus on the bad. We dwell on what could go wrong and what can go wrong. And we contemplate all these bad things, as opposed to meditating on things of good report, meditating on things that are lovely. If we take time to do those things, think about how much stress will be lifted off of your shoulders, and how much better you'll feel if you just think and meditate on things that are good, as opposed to all these things that are bad. Because guess what? If those bad things happen, there's really not a lot that we can do to change them anyway. So, as the Bible says, what is worrying about them? It can't add 1 cubit to your stature. So, I think, again, being anxious and standing on those is great, but continuing and learning and knowing what the next verse says about meditating on these good things is of the utmost importance in this walk that we do every single day called life. So I don't know what the doctor is going to tell me. They called me and told me that they were concerned about some of my lab results, and they want me to come back so we can talk about them. Obviously, that's never something that you want to hear. You want to hear that everything's fine and dandy, and going on about your life, and cut back on your cholesterol. But that's not the case here. So I'll go back tomorrow, and we'll see what they say. Is it concerning? Sure. Am I anxious? No. Am I nervous? No. Am I meditating on things of good report? You bet. Whatever's going to happen, whatever they're going to say, they're not in control. God is in control, and whatever He has planned for me, in regards to whatever's going on medically, I know that it's for His purpose and not for mine. So it's something hard to accept a lot of times, but I know that one way or another, I'm going to come out ahead, whether it's in this health body that's breaking down as I age, or whether it's in eternity with Him. So sometimes we lose focus on what the end result is, and it's not trying to be morbid or anything like that. And I know that so many of you have had to deal with your own medical issues and are dealing with them now, and have lost loved ones to medical issues and things like that. And I'm not putting it, making it a light out of it, making it lightly by any means. It's a very serious issue, and I understand that. But you know what? So is Jesus. So we're going to be okay one way or another. And I will update you guys. I appreciate your prayers and your thoughts. And we're going to have good thoughts. And we're going to think good thoughts, like I think it was Mary Poppins or something. Think lovely thoughts or whatever. And we're going to focus on that, and we're going to meditate on the good things that the Lord has in store, and understand His purpose and accept His purpose, and continue to walk in obedience, and strengthen each other and help each other, because I've come to realize that maybe He's trying to sit me down, to slow me down, to allow to force me to ask for help. Sometimes we don't want to ask for help until we're put in a position where we have to. And I'm not a big, please help me person, but maybe I need to be. So if you guys are struggling, if you guys are in need, don't be afraid to ask for help before you get to a point where you have to. And if you're in a position to help somebody, please be on the lookout to help in any way that you can. Stay encouraged, stay strong, stay the path, and let's continue to do this walk together.